Hey folks, I'm here with Tim Gilingham, and we're going to ask him a few questions. Tim, what advice can you give new shooters coming up and coming into like Vegas and the ASAs and stuff?
Well, I mean, it's kind of overwhelming for a new shooter. The best thing to do is find somebody in your local area that's an active shooter. You know, team up with them, get some mentoring, from them. Try to read everything you possibly can. There's a lot of good stuff on the internet. Teach you how to, level sights or set up rests, or your local bow shop sometimes is good at that. Sometimes not. So a lot of times it's better to have a good pro shooter to help you out with some of that new stuff. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Most guys are really willing to give you some advice. So that would be the best thing, for 3D. Yardage is the key. You got to learn to shoot accurately, and that's what this indoor game does for you. It allows you to monitor your shooting and know where you're at shooting-wise. 3D side of things, a little bit different game. It's more of a game than a discipline. And you need to judge yardage. You need to have 3D targets, or find some to shoot if you can, and learn how to judge yardage. So.
Now, what's the difference between your indoor setup versus your outdoor setup?
Well, 3D versus...
3D versus spot.
For indoors, typically, my rule of thumb is I'm going to shoot the largest diameter I can, okay? For indoor competition, that's .422 OD. The Triple X from Gold Tip's my arrow of choice. I run heavier point. Right now I'm running 250s. That might change. Just give me a day. I typically run from 100, anywhere from 120 up to 250, and I don't see a heck of a lot of difference, once you tune the bow properly. One key thing indoors, though, is make sure you don't scrimp on fletchings. There's absolutely no benefit whatsoever to go into too small of a fletching over a 5-inch feather. Outdoors, different story. You have to deal with drag effect and slowing down of the arrow. This here's my ASA 3D arrow. I run 4 2-inch flash vanes. Plenty of vane because I'm running a lot lighter point. The heavier the point, the bigger the fletching's got to be. Okay, so that way the arrow, the vanes actually have some steering and correctional effect. So that's the difference in my 3D setups. Outdoors, I typically run with in the Gold Tip line, I run with a Pro Hunter, outfitted with a pin knock, typically about 120 grain point. Sometimes I'll run an ultralight Pro and a 300, or depending on what bow I'm shooting. But my rule of thumb for outdoor shooting in field and FITA is shoot the heaviest arrow you can get up to 270 foot a second, and you want to keep the diameter down to. This is the smallest diameter arrows we run in Gold Tip currently, but weight's the king outdoors. You got a heavy arrow, So for 3D, maximum diameter for the speed you're trying to get. IBO, it's 5 grains per pound. If you're trying to max that out, go to maximum diameter with a decent point weight. In the Gold Tip line, that'll be your middle weight point. So don't try to go too light on the points. For ASA, just go to the biggest diameter arrow that you can get up to 285 foot a second, and that's really that simple.
Now, do you shoot the same draw length indoor versus outdoors?
No, I think outdoors I tend to shoot a little bit shorter draw length. You tend to deal with some ups and down hills. You got a longer range in your sight. You're not just locked into one position on that sight. So typically I'll run a tad bit shorter outdoors, in the neighborhood of a 1/4 of an inch. That's kind of constantly changing depending on what release I'm trying or what have you. And so all that stuff affects that. Your stabilizer weighting can affect that. If you have a lot of weight out at the end of that stabilizer, I typically run a little bit more indoors than I do outdoor. It pulls you down, it changes your peep height. So you just got to get it to where everything's natural for you. Outdoors, you got to kind of trick a happy medium. If I'm setting up for 3D, I'm going to set my peep height around 40 yards, where where it's staying centered at 40 yards. For field archery, I might make it 60 yards, so that I'm not, so I'm scrunched in a little bit, maybe at 20, but I'm not like way high in my peep at 80. So just draw a happy medium there on that peep height. So.
Well, sir, that's some great advice. Congratulations on your 300 today, and good luck the rest of the weekend.
Well, thanks. Hopefully I can get me a bigger one tomorrow.
Absolutely.